السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله على إحسانه والشكر له على تفضله وامتنانه، ولا إله إلا الله تعظيما لشأنه، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله داعي إلى رضوانه وعلى آله وأصحابه وإخوانه. أما بعد. إخواني في الله, we're still continuing with our lecture series regarding the minor signs of the Day of Judgment. These are the signs that show us that the Day of Judgment is upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَقَدْ جَاءَ أَشْرَاطُهَا. Indeed, the signs of the Day of Judgment have already come. So from the minor signs that we took in the previous lessons, number one, we took the coming of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Number two, we took the splitting of the moon. Number three, we took the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Number four, we took the conquering of Bayt al-Maqdis that happened in the year 16 of the Hijri calendar. And number five, we took the plague of Amwas that killed over 25,000 from the Sahaba and the Tabi'een in the year 18 of the Hijri calendar. Today we continue with sign number 6. From the minor signs of the Day of Judgment, as mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ in the authentic hadiths, is that the Muslims, you Muslims, you'll have so much wealth that a person will not able to give his sadaqah out. You will not be able to find someone to accept your sadaqah. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, لا تقوم الساعة حتى يكثر فيكم المال. The Day of Judgment will not come until you have a lot of wealth. فيفيض. It becomes so much wealth that you're calling someone, come, take this sadaqah. فيقول لا إرب لي فيه. I do not have any need for your money. You won't have anyone to give your sadaqah to. This hadith is muttafaqun alayh. In a different hadith, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, لا يأتين على الناس زمان يطوف فيه الرجل. A man, it will come a time, يطوف فيه الرجل. A person will go around بصدقته من ذهب. He has gold that he wants to give out as sadaqah. ثم لا يجد أحدا يأخذها منه. رواه مسلم. And he'll find no one to take that sadaqah from him. This hadith has been narrated by Imam Muslim. In a different hadith narrated by Adi ibn Hatim radiallahu anhu, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says to Adi, Ya Adi, هل رأيت الحيرة? Have you seen the city of Hira, the Arab city in Iraq, that is the capital city of the Arabs in Iraq? Have you seen Hira? He says, لا وقد أنبئت عنها. I have not seen it, but I have been told about it. He says, يا عدي إن طالت بك حياة لترين الذعينة ترتحل من حيرة حتى تطوف بالكعبة لا تخاف أحدا إلا الله. If you live a long life, O Adi, you shall see a lady, a young lady. She will take her camel and start traveling from the city of Hira in Iraq all the way to Mecca and perform her tawaf. She does not fear anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Adi said to himself, what about the bandits from the tribe of Tay? Then the Prophet ﷺ, he continued, he says, لَإِنْ طَالَتْ بِكَ الْحَيَاةِ لَتَفْتَحُنَّ كُنُوزُ كِسْرَى. If you reach an old age or if you live a long age, you shall conquer the palaces of Kisra and take his wealth. Adi is shocked. He says, Kisra ibn Hurmuz, I shall conquer the palaces of Kisra ibn Hurmuz, the leader of the Persians, the empire, the super empire, the Persian empire. قال كسرى ibn Hurmuz. عليه الصلاة والسلام says to him, you shall conquer the treasures of Kisra ibn Hurmuz. Then he continues, he says, عليه الصلاة والسلام, and if you live a long life, O Adi, you shall come to a day where a man will go around with his sadaqah, with his wealth of gold and silver, and he'll find no one to take from him this gold and silver. Adi says, Wallahi, I reached an age. I saw a woman traveling by herself from Hira to Mecca and performing tawaf by herself, as mentioned by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number two, I saw the treasures of Kisra, for I was amongst the people who participated in the conquest of Persia, and I took all those treasures. And wallahi, if I live a long life, I am going to see a day where there's be a lot of wealth amongst the Muslims, so much so that no one will be accepting sadaqah. Ikhwani fillah, This happened very early on, just after the death of Adi ibn Hatim. At the time of the great Khalif of the Muslims, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, who ruled the Muslims from the year 99 to the year 101 of the Hijri calendar. This man is one of the greatest people of Islamic history, one of the greatest leader that every leader who wants to be a true leader should look up at Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Umar, one day is mentioned by Imam al-Bayhaqi, many people come to the Bayt al-Mal. The rich people, they come with their wealth to the Bayt al-Mal, to the treasury. They all sent back. Why are you coming with this money? We don't have any need for your money. He say, this is money to give the fuqara, the masakin, to give the poor people. He says, there's no masakin and fuqara we can give this money to. He sends one of his companions, Yahya ibn Sa'id, to Africa. He tells them, go to Africa and take all the wealth, all the zakah from the rich people and give it to the poor people. الزكاة تؤخذ من أغنيائهم فترد على فقرائهم, as mentioned by hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal. خذ من أموالهم صدقة. Take from their money, from their wealth صدقة. He says, I went to Africa, I gathered all the zakah from the rich people. But when it came to the time of distribution, I did not find a poor person in Africa to give the zakah to. So much so that I was forced to buy slaves and free those slaves fi sabilillah. Also at this time, Umar, he sent another man called Abdul Hamid ibn Abdul Rahman to Iraq. He says, go to Iraq and collect the zakah. He says, Ya Amir al-Mumineen, I have collected all the zakah from the people of Iraq. And I have given it to the poor people. And the Bayt al-Mal is still overflowing with property, with wealth. There's so much wealth. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz tells him, look for any person who has loans or debts, pay off all their debts, 100%. Pay off their debts. Says, Ya Amir al-Mumineen. After a while he sends a letter, he says, Ya Amir al-Mumineen, I've paid all the debts of the Muslims. I still have a lot of property and wealth with me. He says, look for these young men who have not married. Pay all their marriage expenses, their mahar, their wedding, furnish their houses. Do everything for them they need for their marriage. He says, I've done so, Ya Amir al-Mumineen. There's still a lot of wealth. He says, go to the farmers, the people who pay the kharaj, the agricultural tax of 10%, give them 2 loans for 2 years for free, no fees, and they can pay after 2 years or 3 years, there's no problem. So much wealth appeared at the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, as mentioned by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And it will also come in the future, when the Mahdi comes, there'll be so much wealth in this ummah that people will not be able to accept sadaqah. You will not find anyone to accept your sadaqah. So this is sign number 6 from the signs of the Day of Judgment. There'll be a lot of wealth amongst the Muslims, so much so that you will not find someone to accept your sadaqah. Sign number 7, Dhuhur al-Fitan. There'll be a lot of imtihan, a lot of trials and tribulations that will befall this ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of trials, so much so that falsehood will look like truth. The truth will look like falsehood until the iman of a believer is shaken. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Inna bayna yaday sa'a fitanan ka qita'i al-layl al-muzlim. Before the hour, there's a lot of trials and tribulations, ka qita'i al-layl al-muzlim, like a part of a dark night. يصبح الرجل مؤمنا ويمسي كافرا ويمسي مؤمنا ويصبح كافرا. A man will be a believer in the morning, and in the evening he is the disbeliever, because of the trials and tribulations that are occurring in society. In the evening a man will be a believer, and in the morning he is the disbeliever. In a different hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, بادروا بالأعمال فتنا كقطع الليل المظلم يصبح رجل مؤمنا ويمسي كافرا ويمسي مؤمنا ويصبح كافرا يبيع دينه بعرض من الدنيا. That a man will be a believer in the morning, and in the evening he is the disbeliever. In the evening, another man is a believer. In the morning, he is the disbeliever. يَبِيعُ دِينَهُ بِعَرَضٍ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. He sells his faith for a small worldly gain. The Prophet ﷺ, as narrated by Salama, radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet, one day she says, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he woke up. He was in a state of shock, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he says, Subhanallah, سبحان الله ماذا أنزل الله من الخزائن ماذا أنزل الله من الفتن. He says, Subhanallah, what has Allah brought down tonight from the treasures. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down tonight from the fitnas, the trials and tribulations that will befall you, O Muslims? And he continues, alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Man yuqidhu sawahib al-hujurat, yuridu azwajahu. He says, who will wake up my wives who are staying in this hujurat, in these rooms, لكي يصليان, so that they can pray. رب كاسية في الدنيا عارية في الآخرة. Perhaps you're dressed in this dunya as you are, and on the day of judgment and the year after, you're naked, you do not have any clothes. Ikhwani fillah, this is one of the minor signs of the day of judgment. There'll be so many tribulations, so much trials, that a believer, he will think, this is what is going to destroy me. Then that trial will go down, another trial that is even worse will come. Another trial will come even worse. This is the state of a believer with regards to the signs of the day of judgment. There will be a lot of fitna. From amongst the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us that most of this fitna, most of these trials, this imtihan that will befall you, O Muslims, will come from the east. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, ألا إن الفتنة ها هنا ألا إن الفتنة ها هنا حيث يطلع قرن الشيطان. He says, the fitna comes from this side. The fitna comes from this side, the east. He's pointing to the east. That is where the sun rises. He says the fitna comes from that side. The fitna comes from that side. That is where the horns of shaitan comes from. In a different hadith, a different riwayah, he says, ألا إن رأس الكفر من ها هنا. He says the height of disbelief, or the epitome of disbelief, comes from this side, and he points to the side of Iraq, the side of the east. In a different hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Allahumma barik lana fi sa'ina wa muddina. Oh Allah, bless us with our weighing scales. If we go to the shop and you weigh 1 kg of rice, give us barakah, give us blessing in this way that we take. Then he continues, he says, Allahumma barik lana fi shamina wa fi yamanina. Oh Allah, bless us with our Sham and our Yemen. Sham is the land of Syria, Lebanon, Palestine and Jordan. He says, oh Allah, bless us in our Sham and in our Yemen. A man said to him, wa fi Iraqina. What about our Iraq? Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, inna biha qarnu shaitan. That is where the horns of shaitan comes from. Tahijul fitan. There will always be problems and tribulations in the land of Iraq and that area. He says, وَإِنَّ الْجَفَاءَ مِنَ الْمَشْرِقِ. And he says, harshness, severity, lack of mercy comes from that side of the world, the east. So Prophet ﷺ mentions clearly to us that most of this fitna and most of these trials and tribulations that befall this ummah will come from the east. From amongst the trials that we have seen as an ummah is the Khawarij, an extreme sect who claim they are Muslims, but they want to kill Muslims. They want to massacre Muslims. They came from this side. The Haruriyya, they came from the side of Iraq. You have the Shia, the Rawafid, the Ithna Ashariya. They came from that side of the world. You have the Ismailis, they came from that side of the world. The Qadiriyya, the Jahmiyyah, most of these misguided sects that claim to be Muslims came from that part of the world. Also you have people claiming to be Muslims, claiming that they are part of the Islamic faith, but all the Muslims are in agreement that these people are not Muslims. The Qadianis, the Ahmadiyyas, they come from the east, from India. Ahmed Mirza Ghulam, la'inatullah alayh, he comes from that area of the world. The Baha'is, they come from Iran. So these misguided people, they come from this part of the world. Also the polytheist faiths, the people, the mushrikun, the majority of them come from this part of the world. The Hindus, the Buddhists, they come from that part of the world. Also, ikhwani fillah, one of the greatest trials and tribulations to befall this ummah, the Mongolians, the Tatar, Genghis Khan, la'natullah alayh, who destroyed the Khawarizm Empire in the year 606 and 607 of the Hijri calendar. He destroyed the city of Bukhara, 1 million Muslims, Naysabur, Samarkand. He destroyed all these Muslims. He comes from this part of the world, the east. His grandson, Hulahu Khan, destroyed the city of Baghdad, the capital city of the greatest empire, the most beautiful city in the world for centuries. He destroyed it in the year 656. Hulahu Khan comes from that part of the world. The Chinese, the USSR, with their communism and their socialism, they come from that part of the world. The problems we Muslims have in Kashmir with the Indians, it used to be Kashmir. Now it's most of India, in Uttar Pradesh, in Assam. We have problems in India. We have problems in China with the Uyghurs. We have problems in Myanmar, in Arakan, with the Uyghurs. We have problems in Thailand, in Fatana. We have problems in Philippines, in Mindanao. So most of the trials and the tribulations that will befall this ummah will come from the east, as mentioned by Prophet ﷺ. Also, in the end of the times, the major signs, the Masih al-Dajjal. Where is the Masih al-Dajjal going to come from? From Isfahan in Iran. It's going to come from Iran. And the Iran, compared to Makkah, is towards the east or towards the west? It's towards the east. The Ya'juj or Ma'juj are underground. As you've read in Surah Al-Kahf, they were locked in by who? Who locked the Ya'juj or Ma'juj? Dhul Qarnayn. So they're there. Where in the part of the world? In the east, they will emerge and they will spread fasad upon the entire earth, that even Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salatu salam will not be able to fight them, but he will go to the Jabal al-Tur and hide over there. So this is from the minor signs of the Day of Judgment we take today. Tomorrow we take more of the fitnas that befell this ummah, from the likes of the killing of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. We look at the battle of Jamal, the battle of Siffin, and the battle of Harra Sharqiyya. Wallahu alam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.